You are Matilda, and you have lived in this cottage for 12 years. It is the only home you know, the only home your husband Robert has ever known, and the only home your children, Agnes and little Tom, have ever known. The cottage is one room, square, with walls made of wattle and daub, woven sticks plastered with clay and straw and horsehair. The walls are thick, but they do not keep out the cold. They only slow it down. The roof is thatched, made of reeds pulled from the marsh near the river. The thatch is old now, grey and mossy, and in the winter it leaks, but you have no money to replace it, and Robert is too busy with the plough to climb up and patch it. So you set pots under the drips when it rains, and in the winter the drips freeze into small white beads that hang from the reeds like tiny bones. The hearth is in the middle of the floor. It is a circle of clay, raised a little, with a fire that burns all day and smoulders all night. There is no chimney. The smoke rises and finds its way out through a hole in the roof, a hole that also lets in the wind and the snow. The smoke stains the thatch black, and it stains your clothes and your skin and your hair. You smell of smoke always. You have stopped noticing. The hearth cannot be left burning at night. You learned this from your mother, who learned it from hers. A fire left alone can grow too large, can catch the thatch, can burn the cottage down. You have heard stories of families who lost everything, who woke to flames and fled into the snow with nothing but the clothes on their backs. So you bank the fire before you sleep. You push the logs together, cover them with ashes, and let the embers glow. The heat lasts for a few hours, and then the cold creeps back. You wake in the dark. The embers are grey and the room is cold and your breath steams. You lie still for a moment, listening. Robert is breathing beside you, deep and slow. Agnes is on the other side of him, curled into a small ball. Tom is pressed against your back, his face buried in your shoulder. The children are warm, and that is enough. You sit up slowly, careful not to wake Tom. The blanket falls from your shoulders, and the cold hits you like a hand. You pull your tunic over your head, then your woolen dress, then your shawl. The wool is rough and it smells of smoke and sweat, but it is warm. You feel for your shoes in the dark. They are leather, cracked and thin, and your toes have pushed through the ends. You tie them anyway. You stir the embers. The ashes scatter, and the red glow spreads. You add small twigs from the kindling pile, then larger sticks, then a log. The flames catch and row, and the row lights. You see the walls, grey and rough. You see the chest where you keep the bread, the table where you eat, the stools where you sit. You see the children, their faces soft in the firelight. You put the pot on the fire. The pot is iron, the only metal in the house besides the axe and the knife. It holds water from the stream, and you set it to boil for the morning porridge. While it heats, you take the broom made of birch twigs and sweep the floor. The rushes are old and need replacing, but you have not had time to gather fresh ones. The floor is packed earth, hard and cold. Agnes wakes. She is 6 years old, with thin hair and thin arms and eyes that are too big for her face. She sits up and rubs her eyes. She says, "Is it morning?" You say, "Almost." Stay under the blanket. She lies down again, but she does not sleep. She watches you. Tom wakes too. He is 3, and he does not understand why the world is cold. He cries a small whimper that grows into a wail. You lift him from the bed and hold him against your chest. His feet are cold, and you cover them with your shawl. He calms and he watches the fire. Robert wakes. He is a large man, thick in the shoulders, with hands that are rough from the plough. He does not speak in the morning. He pulls on his tunic and his shoes and goes outside. You hear him at the woodpile, the sound of logs being split. He will come in with his arms full, and the wood will burn, and the day will begin. The porridge is made from rye and a handful of dry peas. You stir it with a wooden spoon, and the smell fills the room. It is not a sweet smell, not like the bread of the rich, but it is the smell of food, and your stomach clenches with hunger. You have not eaten since yesterday, and yesterday you ate little. Agnes sits up again. She says, "Is the porridge ready?" You say, "Soon." She pulls the blanket around her shoulders and comes to sit by the fire. The flames light her face, and you see that she is thin, thinner than she was in the summer. The winter takes from children first. You give her a piece of bread from the chest, a small piece, and she eats it slowly. Robert comes in with the wood. He sets it by the hearth and stands with his hands out to the flames. He says, "The stream is frozen. I had to break the ice." You say, "The well?" He says, "The well is frozen too. We will have to melt snow." You nod. You have done this before. The porridge is ready. You ladle it into wooden bowls, one for each of you. The bowls are old, cracked, but they hold. You eat standing by the fire, the bowl warm in your hands. The porridge is thick and grey, and there is no honey, no salt, nothing but the rye and the peas. But it is hot, and it fills your stomach. Tom eats from your bowl. You give him spoonful after spoonful, and he swallows without chewing. You eat what is left, and it is not enough, but it is something. The sun rises late in winter. The window, a small hole in the wall covered with oiled leather, lets in a grey light. The leather is stretched and cracked, and the wind whistles through the gaps. You will patch it today if you can find the time. You dress the children. Their tunics are thin, and the wool has worn smooth. You put 2 tunics on each of them, the older ones underneath, the newer ones on top. Their shoes are rags wrapped around their feet. You will need to make new shoes soon, but you have no leather. You will have to ask the tanner in the village if he will trade for a chicken. The day's work is the same as yesterday. You mend, you cook, you clean, you carry water. Robert works in the bye, mending the roof where the thatch has slipped. The cow is heavy with calf, and he wants to keep her warm. The cow is more valuable than you, in a way. She gives milk and cheese, and her calf will grow into a new cow or a plough ox. You cannot let her freeze. You go outside to gather kindling. The forest is a short walk from the cottage, past the field where the wheat grew. The field is bare now, brown and frozen. The trees are black against the grey sky. You walk to the edge of the wood and bend down to pick up fallen twigs. The twigs are wet, and your hands are cold. You fill your apron with them and carry them back. The snow begins to fall in the afternoon. It is light at first, small flakes that melt when they touch the ground. But it grows heavier, and the flakes are larger, and the ground turns white. You watch from the window. Tom presses his face to the leather, and his breath fogs it. He says, "Snow." You say, "Yes." Snow. You add wood to the fire. The flames leap, and the room warms. You sit by the hearth, the children beside you, and you tell them a story. It is an old story, the one about the hedgehog and the fox. You have told it 100 times, but they do not tire of it. They listen, and their eyes are wide, and the snow falls. Robert comes in from the byre. He is cold, and his nose is red. He stands by the fire and says, "The cow is restless. She knows the cold is coming." You say, "She will be fine. The byre is dry." He says, "The thatch needs mending. I will do it tomorrow." You eat supper in the dark. The candles are too expensive to burn, and the rushlights flicker and die. You eat by the light of the fire, the flames casting shadows on the walls. The supper is pottage, made from the last of the dried peas and a piece of salt pork, no bigger than your thumb. You cut the pork into small pieces, one for each of you. The children eat theirs first, then the bread, then the broth. You bank the fire. You push the logs together and cover them with ashes. The embers glow, and the room darkens. You lie down on the bed, the children between you and Robert. The blanket is thin, and you pull your shawl over your shoulders. You listen to the wind. It moves through the thatch, and the reeds rattle. It finds the gaps in the walls, and you feel it on your face. Tom is asleep. Agnes is asleep. Robert is breathing deep and slow. You are the only one awake. You lie still, and you think of the winter ahead. The woodpile is low. The food is low. The children are thin. But you have the cow, and the cow will have a calf, and the calf will grow. You have the chickens, and they will lay again in the spring. You have Robert, and he is strong. You have yourself, and you have survived every winter before. You close your eyes. The embers fade, and the room is dark. The cold seeps through the blanket, but you are warm enough. You sleep. You dream of the summer. The fields are green, and the desert side is hard. You are walking through the wheat, and the stalks brush against your legs. Agnes is running ahead, and Tom is on your hip. Robert is behind you carrying a scythe. You wake. The room is grey. The embers are dead. You sit up and your breath steams. You stir the ashes and there is a spark, a small red glow. You blow on it and it grows. You add kindling and the flames return. The room lightens. Agnes wakes. She says, "Is it morning?" You say, "Yes." She sits up and looks at the window. The leather is white with frost. She says, "The snow is still falling." You say, "It will stop soon." You do not know if it will, but you say it anyway. You dress. You stir the pot. You wake Tom. Robert goes to the woodpile. The day begins again, the same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. The winter is long, but you have done this before. You will do it again. You are still here. The hearth is warm. The children are alive. That is enough. The woodpile is low. You have known it for weeks, but today the truth of it presses on you like the cold. Robert stands by the stack, his hands on his hips, and he counts the logs. There are 23. 23 logs to last through the winter, and the winter has barely begun. He does not speak. He does not need to. You see the numbers in his face. The wood is not dry. You gathered it late this autumn, after the rains had come, and the wet has seeped into the grain. When you put a log on the fire, it hisses and smokes and takes a long time to catch. The flames are weak and the heat is thin. You have to use more wood to get the same warmth, and the pile shrinks faster. You say, "We need more." Robert says, "I know." He pulls on his coat, a heavy wool coat that his father wore, patched at the elbows and short at the wrists. He takes the axe from the corner. The axe is old, the handle smooth from years of hands. He tests the edge with his thumb and nods. He says, "I will go to the forest. The children can help gather twigs." You say, "I will come too." He says, "Someone must stay with the fire." You nod. Agnes and Tom are sitting by the hearth. They are wrapped in the same blanket, their faces red from the heat. You tell them, "We are going to the forest. You will help carry wood." Agnes stands. Tom whines. You lift him and set him on your hip. He is heavy, but you are used to it. The forest is a short walk, but the snow makes it slow. The path is hidden, and you follow the line of the hedge, then the line of the stream. The trees are bare, their branches black against the grey sky. The ground is white, and your feet sink with each step. Tom points at a crow and says, "Bird." You say, "Yes, bird." Robert stops at the edge of the wood. He looks at the trees, the oaks and the beeches, the fallen branches buried in the snow. He says, "We will take only the dead wood. The living trees will grow again in spring." You know this. He has told you every winter. But he tells you again, and you listen. You set Tom down. He stands in the snow and his shoes are wet. Agnes takes his hand. You say, "Gather twigs, small ones. Put them in my apron." They bend down and pick up the fallen twigs, the thin branches that the wind has broken. Their fingers are red, and they blow on their hands. Robert takes the axe and walks to a fallen oak. The oak has been dead for years, its bark loose, its wood grey. He swings the axe and the blade bites into the wood. The sound is sharp, and the snow shakes from the branches above. He swings again, and a chunk of wood splits away. He picks it up and sets it on the pile. You walk deeper into the wood. You look for branches that have fallen, not too thick, not too thin. You find a beech branch as long as your arm and drag it back. The snow is deep and your legs ache. Tom is crying now, his hands cold, his nose running. You pick him up and hold him against your chest. He is warm, and you are cold. Robert works for an hour. The pile of wood grows, but not enough. The logs are small, and they will burn quickly. He wipes his forehead with his sleeve and says, "It will have to do." You do not argue. There is no use. You gather the twigs into your apron. Agnes has filled her small basket, and Tom has gathered nothing. You tie the twigs into bundles with twine and stack them on the pile. Robert carries the logs, 2 under each arm. You carry Tom, and Agnes walks behind, dragging a branch, dragging a brant. The walk back is slower. The snow is deeper now, and the wind has risen. You cannot see the cottage until you are almost at the door. The smoke from the hole in the roof is thin, almost invisible. The fire is low. You open the door, and the warmth hits you. The children run to the hearth and you set Tom on the blanket. You add logs to the fire and the flames leap. The wood hisses and the smoke thickens, but the room warms. You sit by the hearth and unlace your shoes. Your feet are wet and your toes are white. You hold them to the fire and the feeling returns slowly, a prickling that is almost pain. Agnes is crying. She does not say why. You pull her onto your lap and hold her. She is cold, but she will warm. Robert sits on the stool. He is tired and his hands are sore. He looks at the woodpile, now a little larger, and says, "It will not last." You say, "It will last if we are careful." He says, "We are always careful." You do not answer. You spend the afternoon splitting the logs into smaller pieces. The axe is heavy and your arms ache. But small logs burn faster and give more heat than large ones. You learn this from your mother, and she learned it from hers. You split the oak, the the ash. The wood is wet, and the axe sticks. You pull it free and swing again. The children play by the hearth. They have wooden toys, a horse that Robert carved, a doll that you made from rags. They make the horse gallop across the floor, and the doll rides on its back. They are warm and they are safe. You sort the kindling. The smallest twigs, the driest ones, you set aside for the morning fire. The larger ones you stack by the hearth. You keep the kindling in a wooden chest near the door, away from the damp. The chest was your mother's, and the wood is carved with flowers and vines. You run your fingers over the carving, and you remember her. The sun sets early. The light through the leather window fades, and you light a rushlight. The flame is small, but it gives enough light to see the table. You cut bread, dark rye bread, and slice a piece of salt pork. The pork is from the pig you killed in autumn, salted and stored in a barrel. The barrel is half empty now. You eat in silence. The bread is hard, and you dip it in the broth from the pottage. The pork is salty, and you chew it slowly. The children eat their share and ask for more. There is no more. After supper, you sit by the hearth. The fire is low, and you add a small log. The flames leap, and the shadows dance the walls. Robert carves a spoon from a piece of birch. The wood is soft, and the knife is sharp. He works slowly, shaping the bowl, then the handle. The shavings fall on the floor, and Agnes gathers them to use as kindling. You tell a story. It is the story of St. Margaret, who was swallowed by a dragon and cut her way out. The children have heard it before, but they listen again. Agnes asks, "Was she afraid?" You say, "Yes, but she prayed, and the prayer gave her strength." Tom is already asleep, his head on your lap. You stroke his hair. The fire burns down. The room is dark and the only light is the glow of the embers. You bank the fire, covering the logs with ashes. The ashes are grey and fine, and they hold the heat. The room will stay warm for a few hours, and then the cold will return. You lie on the bed. The children are between you and Robert. The blanket is thin, and you pull your shawl over your shoulders. You listen to the wind. It is strong tonight, and it finds every crack in the walls. You feel it on your face, and you pull the blanket higher. You think of the woodpile. 23 logs, plus what you gathered today. It is not enough. You will need to go to the forest again, and again, and again. The winter is long, and the wood will burn. You will be cold. But you have survived before. Tom turns in his sleep and presses his face against your shoulder. He is warm. Agnes is warm. Robert is warm. You close your eyes. You dream of the forest. The trees are bare, and the snow is deep. You are carrying a bundle of wood, and the bundle is heavy. Your feet are cold, and your hands are cracked. You walk and walk, but the cottage does not appear. You wake. The room is dark. The embers are grey. You sit up, and your breath steams. You stir the ashes, and there is a spark. You blow on it, and it glows. You add kindling, and the flames return. The room lightens. Agnes is awake. She says, "I dreamed of the dragon." You say, "The dragon is gone." And the room lightens. Agnes is awake. She says, "Margaret killed it." She says, "Was it real?" You say, "The story is real. The dragon is the fear. The prayer is the sword." She does not understand, but she nods. You dress, you stir the pot, you wake Tom. Robert goes to the byre to check the cow. The cow is restless, and her calf will come soon. You hope it comes in the spring, not in the winter. A winter calf is weak, and the cold kills the weak. The morning passes. You mend a tear in Robert's tunic. The needle is bone, and the thread is linen. You work slowly, and the stitches are small. The children play by the hearth. Tom builds a tower of twigs, and Agnes knocks it down. He cries, and she gives him a piece of bread. He stops crying. Robert comes in. He says, "The cow is warm. The beer is dry." You say, "The calf," he says, "Not yet, soon." He sits by the fire and rubs his hands. His hands are cracked, and the cracks are deep. You take the pot of goose grease from the shelf and rub it into his skin. He winces, but he does not pull away. The day is short, and the light fades. You light the rushlight. You eat the same bread. You light the rushlight. You eat the same bread, the same pork. The pottage is thin, and you add water to stretch it. The children are hungry, but they do not complain. You tell another story. This one is about the fox and the hedgehog. The fox tries to trick the hedgehog, but the hedgehog is too clever. The children laugh. Tom falls asleep on the floor, and you carry him to the bed. You bank the fire. The embers glow. You lie down. The wind is still, and the room is quiet. You listen to the breathing of your family. The children sleep, and Robert sleeps. You are the only one awake. You think of the woodpile. You think of the forest. You are not afraid. The cold is an enemy, but you have fought it before. You will fight it again. You close your eyes. You sleep. You do not dream. The night is dark, and the room is cold, but you are warm enough. The embers fade, but the morning will come. The fire will be lit again. The wood will burn. The winter will pass. The salt pork hangs from a hook in the corner of the cottage. It is dark meat, streaked with white fat, and the salt has dried the surface to a hard crust. You look at it every day. You count the pieces in your head. There are 12 left, and the winter has only just begun. 12 pieces of pork for 4 people, for weeks and weeks of cold. You do not say this to Robert. He knows. He counts too. The bread is kept in the chest by the door. The chest is made of oak, and the lid fits tight to keep the mice out. You open it each morning and each evening, and you take out the loaf. The loaf is round and dark, made from rye flour and dried peas ground together. There is no wheat. Wheat is for the Lord, for the miller, for the rich. You have rye and peas, and that is enough. You cut the bread with a knife, the same knife you use for everything. The blade is iron, and the handle is wrapped in leather. You cut thin slices, one for each of you, and you put the loaf back in the chest. The children watch you. They watch your hands, and they watch the knife, and they watch the bread. They are always hungry. You give the slices to Robert and the children. You take your own slice and break it in half. You put one half back in the chest. The children do not see. You eat the half slice, chewing slowly, and the bread is dry and hard, but it fills your stomach. The half that you saved will be for tomorrow or for the day after. You are not sure yet. The porridge in the morning is made from rye and a handful of dried peas. You boil it in the iron pot, and the smell fills the cottage. The children sit by the fire, and you give them each a bowl. Tom eats with his fingers, scooping the porridge into his mouth. Agnes uses a spoon, a wooden spoon that Robert carved for her. You eat from the same bowl as Tom. You give him most of it, and you eat what is left. Robert eats his porridge standing by the fire. He does not sit. He is already thinking about the day, about the woodpile, about the cow. He finishes quickly and wipes his bowl with his sleeve. He says, "The bread is low." You say, "I know." He says, "The pork will last another 2 weeks, maybe 3. You say, "I will stretch it." He nods. He does not ask how. The pottage for supper is the same every day. Water, a handful of dried peas, a piece of salt pork, no bigger than your thumb. You cut the pork into tiny pieces, so small that the children cannot see them. They eat the broth, and the pieces of pork are a surprise, a taste of salt and fat that makes them smile. You do not eat the pork. You give your piece to Tom, who is small and needs it more. You think about the pig. You remember the day you killed it, in the autumn, when the leaves were turning. Robert held it down, and you cut its throat. The blood ran into a bowl, and you used it to make black pudding. The pudding was rich and dark, and you ate it fresh. You salted the rest of the meat and hung it from the hook. The pig was fat, and the meat was thick. You thought it would last until spring. But the children are hungry, and the meat is disappearing. The bread is made once a week. You mix the rye flour with water and a pinch of salt, and you knead it on the table. The dough is stiff, and your hands ache. You shape it into a round loaf and set it by the fire to rise. It does not rise much, not like the bread of the rich, but it rises enough. You bake it in the embers, covered with a clay pot. The bread bakes slowly, and the smell fills the cottage. The children watch it, their eyes wide. They ask, "Is it ready yet?" You say, "Not yet." When the bread is done, you tap the bottom. It sounds hollow. You set it on the table to cool, and the children wait. You cut a piece for each of them, and they eat it warm, with butter if you have butter, but you do not have butter. The butter is gone. The cow gives milk, but the milk is thin and the cream is little. You have not churned butter for weeks. The children ask for more bread. You say tomorrow. They do not argue. They have learned that asking does not fill their stomachs. You dream about food at night. You dream about the pig roasted on a spit, the fat dripping into the fire. You dream about bread, white bread, soft and sweet. You dream about honey, a whole pot of it, golden and thick. You wake in the dark, and your stomach is hollow, and the room is cold. You turn over and close your eyes. The dreams are not real. The cold is real. The hunger is real. The hunger is real. Agnes is coughing. It started 3 days ago, a dry cough that comes and goes. You give her tea made from thyme, dried thyme that you gathered in the summer. The tea is bitter, but she drinks it. You hold her by the fire and the warmth helps. Tom is coughing too, but his cough is wet. You worry about him. The wet cough is worse. You give them both the last of the honey. The honey was from a hive in the forest, a wild hive that Robert found. He smoked the bees and took the comb, and you strained the honey into a clay pot. The pot is empty now. You scraped the last of it with a spoon and gave it to the children. They licked the spoon, and their faces were sticky. You do not eat the honey. You do not eat the pork. You do not eat the bird. You eat the broth, the thin pottage, the crusts that the children leave. You are hungry, but you are not starving. Not yet. Robert brings home a hare. He caught it in a snare, a simple snare made of twine. The hair is thin, its ribs showing through its fur. But it is meat. You skin it, and the fur comes off in your hands. The meat is dark and lean. You cut it into pieces and put it in the pot with water and a handful of dried peas. The stew simmers all day, and the smell fills the cottage. The children watch the pot. They do not play. They just watch. You give them each a bowl of stew. The hair is tough, and the meat is stringy, but it is meat. They eat it slowly, savoring each bite. Tom says, "More." You give him the rest of yours. He eats it and asks again. There is no more. Robert says, "I will set more snares." You say, "The snow is deep. The hares are hiding." He says, "I will find them." You do not argue. The flour is low. The sack of rye that you bought at the autumn market is half empty. You open it and look inside. The flour is grey, mixed with bits of husk. You run your fingers through it, and it is soft. You will make bread tomorrow, a smaller loaf than usual. You will stretch the flour with more water, and the bread will be thinner, but it will still be bread. You think about the market. The market is in the village a mile away. You have not been since the snow came. The road is deep and the cold is sharp, but you have no money to buy anything even if you went. The few coins that Robert earned in the summer are gone. You spent them on salt, on flour, on a new knife when the old one broke. There is nothing left. The children ask for food in their sleep. You hear them muttering words that are not quite words. Tom says, "Bread." Agnes says, "Bread." Agnes says, "More." You lie in the dark and listen. You do not sleep. You think about the spring. The spring will bring fresh greens, the wild garlic, the nettles, the first eggs from the chickens. The chickens have stopped laying. The days are too short and the cold is too deep. They will start again when the light returns. You think about the cow. She will have her calf soon, and then she will give more milk. The milk will be rich, and you will make cheese. The cheese will be soft and white, and you will eat it with bread. You think about the bread, the cheese, the milk. Your stomach clenches. You turn over and close your eyes. You wake in the dark. The fire is low, and the room is cold. You add a small log, the smallest one you can find. The flames catch, and the room lightens. You see the faces of the children, pale in the firelight. They are sleeping, their mouths open, their breath slow. You pull the blanket over them and tuck it around their shoulders. You go to the chest and open it. The loaf is small, smaller than yesterday. You cut a slice, thin as paper, and eat it standing by the fire. The bread is dry, and you chew it slowly. You drink water from the cup, and the water is cold. You put the loaf back in the chest and close the lid. Robert wakes. He sits up and rubs his eyes. He says, "The wood." You say, "I know." He dresses and goes outside. You hear him at the woodpile, the sound of logs being moved. He will split the wood that he gathered yesterday, and the pile will grow a little. But the wood is wet, and it will burn quickly. The cold is not finished. The winter is long. The day passes. You mend a tear in Agnes's tunic. The wool is thin, and the needle is sharp. You work by the fire, and the children play on the floor. Tom builds a tower of twigs, and Agnes knocks it down. They do not laugh. They are too tired to laugh. You eat the pottage. The same pottage, the same broth, the same pieces of pork that are not really pieces. You give the children the meat, and you drink the broth. The broth is warm, and it fills your stomach for a while. Then the hunger returns. You bank the fire. You lie on the bed. The children are warm against you. Robert is warm on the other side. You close your eyes. You think of the spring. You think of the wild garlic, the nettles, the eggs. You think of the bread, the cheese, the milk. You sleep. You dream of the hare. It is running through the snow, and you are chasing it. Your legs are heavy, and the snow is deep. The hare is fast, and you are slow. You reach for it, but it slips away. You wake. The room is dark. The embers are grey. You stir them, and a spark glows. You add kindling, and the flames return. The morning is the same. The bread is the same. The pottage is the same. The hunger is the same. You survive. That is what you do. You survive. Agnes asks, "Will we have enough food?" You say, "Yes." She says, "How do you know?" You say, "Because we always have." You do not tell her about the pig, about the flour, about the coins. She is 6. She does not need to know. Robert comes in with an armful of wood. He sets it by the hearth and says, "The snow is deep. The path to the forest is gone." You say, "We will find it." He says, "I know." You go outside. The snow is up to your knees. The cottage is a small shape in the white. The trees are dark. You walk toward them, and your feet sink. You reach the edge of the wood and look for fallen branches. They are buried under the snow. You dig with your hands, and the snow is cold. You find a branch, pull it free, and drag it back. The work is slow. Your hands are red and your feet are wet. You gather a small pile, smaller than yesterday. You carry it inside and stack it by the hearth. Robert looks at it and says nothing. You eat the bread. The slice is thin, and you chew it slowly. The children eat theirs and ask for more. There is no more. You tell a story. It is the story of the loaves and the fishes, the one that the priest told at the church. The children listen, and their eyes are wide. Tom asks, "Did they have enough?" You say yes. There was enough for everyone. He says, "Will we have enough?" You say yes. You do not know if it is true, but you say it anyway. The children need to believe. You need to believe too. The fire burns. The wood hisses. The pottage simmers. The day passes. The night comes. You bank the fire. You lie on the bed. You close your eyes. The hunger is a weight in your stomach. It is not sharp. It is not shrike. It is not snicrolex. You have learned to live with it. You have learned to ignore it. But at night, when the room is dark and the children are asleep, you feel it. You feel every empty place. You think of the spring. You think of the first green shoots, the wild garlic, the nettles. You think of the cow's calf, the rich milk, the soft cheese. You think of the bread made from new flour, warm and soft. You sleep. You do not dream. The night is long and the cold is deep. But you are alive. The children are alive. That is enough. For now, that is enough. For Mal, that is enough. The well freezes in the first week of December. You know it before you see it, because the rope is stiff and the bucket does not want to go down. You pull it up, and the bucket is empty, the rope coated with ice. You look into the dark hole, and the water is not there. The surface is white, rough, frozen solid. You stand by the well with the bucket in your hand. The wind blows, and your skirt flaps against your legs. You think of the stream, a quarter-mile away, past the field, past the hedge, at the edge of the forest. The water there runs fast, and it does not freeze so quickly. You will have to walk. You go inside. Robert is by the fire, mending a harness. You say, "The well is frozen." He looks up. He does not ask how you know. He says, "The stream?" You say, "I will go." He says, "I will come with you." You say, "No, the children are sleeping. Stay with them." You take the wooden yoke from the corner. It is a long, curved piece of wood, shaped to fit over your shoulders. 2 leather thongs hang from the ends, each with an iron hook. You hook 2 buckets onto the thongs, and you lift the yoke onto your shoulders. The buckets swing, and the iron hooks plink. You walk through the snow. The path to the stream is hidden, but you know the way. You follow the hedge, then the line of the field, then the edge of the wood. The snow is deep, and your feet are wet. The buckets bump against your legs. The stream is not frozen solid. The water runs fast in the middle, but the edges are ice. You kneel on the bank and break the ice with your fist. The water is dark and cold. You dip the first bucket, and it fills slowly. The water is heavy. You lift it and hook it to the yoke. You dip the second bucket, and it fills. You stand, and the weight settles on your shoulders. The yoke creaks. You walk back. The buckets swing, and water slops over the rims. Your hands are wet, and the cold is sharp. You do not stop. You cannot stop. The children need water. You reach the cottage. Robert opens the door, and you carry the buckets inside. You set them by the hearth, and the water steams. Your hands are red, and your fingers are sit. You said that you hold them to the fire, and the feeling returns slowly. The pain is a prickling, a burning, and you welcome it. The pain means you are not frozen. Agnes wakes. She sees the buckets and says, "The well is frozen?" You say, "Yes. We will use the stream." She says, "I will help." You say, "You are too small." She says, "I can carry a cup." You smile. You say, "Maybe tomorrow." The water from the stream is brown, full of silt. You let it sit, and the silt settles at the bottom. You pour the clean water into the clay jug, careful not to disturb the mud. The jug holds enough for a day, maybe 2. You will have to walk again tomorrow. The snow falls in the night. You wake to a world that is white and deep. The door is blocked, and Robert pushes it open from the inside. The snow is up to his knees. He says, "The path is gone." You say, "We will find it." You do not go to the stream. The snow is too deep, and the cold is too sharp. You melt snow instead. You take the iron pot and fill it with clean snow. The white snow from the top, not the yellow snow near the door. You set the pot on the fire, and the snow melts slowly. The water is less than you expected. A full pot of snow gives only a finger of water. You melt pot after pot. The fire burns and the wood shrinks, but you have water. The children drink, and you drink. The water is flat and tasteless, but it is wet. Robert says, "The snow will melt in the spring. The well will fill again." You say, "The spring is far." He says, "It will come." He is trying to be hopeful. You do not argue. The days pass. You walk to the stream when you can, when the snow is not too deep, when the wind is not too strong. You carry the yoke and the buckets, and your shoulders ache. The path is trampled now, a dark line in the white. You follow it, and the snow is packed hard. The walking is easier, the stream is lower. The water has frozen at the edges, and the open channel is narrow. You kneel and dip the buckets, and the water is cold. Your hands crack, the skin splits at the knuckles, and the cracks are deep. They bleed, and the blood freezes. You wrap your hands in rags, and the rags freeze too. Agnes sees your hands. She says, "Does it hurt?" You say, "A little." She says, "I will carry the water." You say, "You are too small." She says, "I am strong." She picks up a small cup and carries it to the hearth. The cup holds a sip, but she is proud. You tell her she is a good girl. Tom tries to help too. He carries a cup of water across the floor, and he spills most of it. The rushes are wet, but you do not scold him. He is trying. You teach the children to scoop clean snow from the top. The top snow is white, and the bottom snow is grey with dirt. You show them how to fill the pot, how to pack the snow down, how to set it on the fire. They work together, and the pot fills. The snow melts, and the water is clean. You ration the water. Each person gets 2 cups a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. The children drink theirs quickly. You drink yours slowly, saving the last sip for Tom. He is small, and he needs it more. The cow needs water too. Robert carries a bucket to the byre and sets it by her nose. She drinks, and her tongue is rough. She is heavy with calf, and her sides are swollen. You worry about her. A dry cow gives less milk, and a thirsty cow is a sick cow. You give her extra water, even when your own throat is dry. The chickens drink from a shallow bowl. You fill it each morning, and the water freezes by midday. You break the ice, and they drink the cold water. They do not complain. The chickens are patient. You think about the well. The well is deep, and the water is far down. The ice is thick, and you cannot break it. You have tried. You dropped a stone, and it bounced on the ice. The sound was hollow. The ice will not melt until the spring. The spring is far. The spring is a dream. You live in the winter, and the winter is now. You dream about the well. The well is full, and the water is clear. You dip the bucket, and it comes up heavy. You drink, and the water is cold and sweet. You wake, and your mouth is dry. The bucket is empty. The well is foul. You draw and bake. You go to the stream. The snow is falling, and the wind is sharp. You walk with your head down, and the yoke is heavy. The buckets swing, and the water slops. Your hands are wrapped in rags, and the rags are wet. You cannot feel your fingers. You reach the stream. The open channel is smaller than yesterday. The ice has grown, and the water is narrow. You kneel and dip the bucket. The water is shallow, and the bucket scrapes the bottom. You pull it up, and it is half full. You dip again, and the bucket fills. The water is brown with silt. You walk back. The yoke creaks, and your shoulders ache. You reach the cottage, and Robert opens the door. You carry the buckets inside. The water is low, but it is enough. You pour the water into the jug. The silt settles, and the water clears. You drink a cup, and the water is cold. You give a cup to Agnes, and she drinks it slowly. Tom drinks his and asks for more. There is no more. You say, "Tomorrow we will go again." Tom cries. He is tired of the cold. He is tired of the water. He wants the well to be warm. You hold him, and he cries into your shoulder. You do not tell him that the well will be frozen for months. You let him cry. The snow melts a little in January. The days are warmer, and the ice on the stream thins. You walk to the stream without the yoke, carrying a single bucket. The path is muddy, and your shoes are wet. The water is higher, and the bucket fills quickly. You carry it back, and the weight is less. The walking is easier. But the cold returns. The ice thickens again, and the path freezes. You slip, and the bucket falls. The water spills, and the ground is wet. You pick up the bucket and walk back to the stream. The second time, you are careful. You do not stay his nights. You teach Agnes to carry a cup. She walks beside you, her small feet in the snow. She carries a clay cup and the water slops over the rim. She is slow, but she does not complain. You walk together and the silence is deep. Robert comes with you sometimes. He carries 2 buckets and the yoke is heavy on his shoulders. He is strong and he walks fast. You struggle to keep up. He sets the buckets by the hearth and goes back to the byre. The cow needs him. The calf is coming. The calf is born in the middle of the night. You wake to the sound of Robert calling. You go to the byre and the cow is lying on the straw. Her sides are heaving and her eyes are wide. The calf is half out, wet and dark. Robert pulls it and it slides onto the straw. The cow licks it and the calf bleats. You stay in the byre. The calf bleats. You stay in the byre. The calf bleats. It nurses and the milk is thick. The cow is tired, but she is alive. The calf is alive. You have food for the spring. You carry water to the cow. She drinks and her tongue is rough. You fill the bucket again. The calf drinks milk and the milk is warm. You think of the cheese you will make, the soft white cheese, the bread dipped in the whey. The spring is not here yet, but it is closer. The well is still frozen. The stream is still cold. Your hands are still cracked. But the calf is born, and the milk will come. The eggs will come. The bread will come. The bread will come. You wait. You were good at waiting. You walk to the stream. The buckets are full. You carry them home. The water is brown, but it is water. You drink, and the children drink. The cow drinks. The calf drinks. The winter is long, but you have water. You have survived another day. The spring will come. You hold that thought in your chest like a small flame. The spring will come, and the well will melt, and the water will flow. You will drink until your stomach is full. You will not be thirsty again, not until next winter. You walk to the stream. The snow is maltig. The path is muddy. Your shoes are wet. You do not mind. The water is there. The water is always there. You carry the buckets home. The yoke creaks. The children are waiting. They are thirsty. You pour the water into the jug. The silt settles. The water is clear. You drink. The winter is not over. But you are still here. The water is still here. That is enough. The beer is attached to the cottage, a small lean-to made of wattle and daub with a thatched roof that slopes down to the ground. The cow is there, and the goats, and the chickens. The cow is the most important. Her name is Bess, though we do not often say her name. She is old, older than Agnes, older than your marriage. She belonged to Robert's mother, and her mother before that. She is part of the family. The beer is warmer than the cottage in some ways. The animals give off heat, their bodies press together in the dark. Their breath steams, and the walls are thick with dried dung and old straw. The smell is strong, but you do not notice it anymore. It is the smell of life. You go to the byre each morning before the fire is lit. You carry a bucket of water from the stream or from the melted snow, and you pour it into the stone trough. The cow drinks, and her tongue is rough. The goats drink after her, and the chickens peck at the spilled water. The hay is stored in the corner, a stack of dried grass that you and Robert cut in the summer. The stack is smaller now, much smaller. You look at it each morning, and you count the days. There is enough for another month, maybe less. The winter is not over. You fork the hay into the manger. The cow pushes her nose into it and chews slowly. The goats nudge each other for the best pieces. The chickens scratch at the straw, looking for seeds. You stand by the manger and watch the meat. The sound is soft, a rhythmic chewing that fills the dark space. The cow is heavy with calf. You can see the movement under her skin, the small kicks and shifts. Robert says the calf will come soon, before the end of winter. You hope he is right. A winter calf is weak, but Bess is strong. She has done this before. You worry about the cow. She needs good food, but the hay is old and dry. She needs warmth, but the beer is cold. You have covered her with an old blanket, the one that was too threadbare for the bed. She does not seem to mind. She stands in the corner, her eyes half closed, her breath slow. The goats are younger. There are 2 of them, a nanny and a billy. The nanny gives milk, a little, not enough for cheese. but enough for the children. You milk her each morning, sitting on a three-legged stool, pressing your forehead against her flank. The milk is warm and thin, and you give it to Agnes and Tom in a clay cup. They drink it slowly, and their lips are white. The billy goat is for meat, but you have not killed him. He is thin, and the meat would be stringy. You keep him for now, hoping that the spring grass will fatten him. He is restless, and he butts the walls with his horns. You tie him to a post to keep him still. The chickens are 4. They roost on a perch made of a branch, and they sleep with their heads tucked under their wings. They lay eggs when the days are long, but in the winter they stop. You have not seen an egg for weeks. You check the nest boxes each morning, hoping. The boxes are empty. You feed the chickens with grain, a handful of oats that you saved from the harvest. The grain is almost gone. You will have to let them scratch in the snow soon, looking for anything that might be hidden underneath. The snow is deep, and they do not like to walk in it. They stand by the door and peck at the threshold. The bray needs mending. The wind finds the gaps in the walls, and the snow drifts through. Robert has patched the worst holes with straw and clay, but new holes appear. You go out after a storm and press the clay back into the cracks. Your hands are cold, and the clay is stiff. You work slowly, and the wall holds. The cow coughs sometimes. It is a deep cough from her chest. You worry about her lungs. The damp is bad for her. You add more straw to her bedding, and she lies down. She seems comfortable. You talk to the cow. You tell her about the children, about the wood, about the food. She listens with her large eyes. She does not answer, but her ears move. You think she understands. The goats are restless. They bleat at night, and the sound echoes in the byre. You go out with a lantern, and they quiet. You stand with them, and the silence returns. The wind is cold, and your feet are wet, but you stay for a while. The animals need you. You need them. The calf is born on a night when the snow is falling. You are in the byre, checking the cow, and you see the water break. The fluid is clear, and the cow moans. You call Robert, and he comes from the cottage with a lantern. He sets it on a hook, and the light is dim. The cow lies down. Her sides heave, and her eyes are wide. You kneel beside her and stroke her neck. She is scared. You are scared too. Robert says nothing. He waits. The calf comes slowly. You see the hooves first, then the nose. The cow pushes, and the nose. The cow pushes, and the calf slides out onto the straw. It is wet and dark, and its eyes are closed. The cow turns and licks it. The calf shiver with a sack, and the cow continues licking. The calf opens its eyes. It bleats. The calf is small, smaller than you hoped. Its legs are thin, and it struggles to stand. It falls, and it tries again. You help it, holding it upright, and it stands. It takes a step, and it falls again. The cow moans, and the calf tries again. It stands, and this time it stays. You watch the calf find the teat. It nurses, and the milk is warm. The cow relaxes. Robert says, "It is a heifer." You look between the legs, and he is right. A female. A new cow for the future. You name her Hope. The name is not a name you would choose in the summer, but in the winter, hope is all you have. Agnes comes to the beer in the morning, and she sees the calf. Her eyes are wide. She says, "Can I touch it?" You say, "Yes," gently. She touches the calf's nose, and the calf sniffs her hag. It is the first smile you have seen in weeks. The cow gives more milk now. The calf takes the first milk, the colostrum, thick and yellow. After a day, you start milking the cow yourself. The milk is rich, and you give it to the children. They drink it warm, and their faces are happy. You make cheese. It is a soft cheese, pressed in a cloth and hung from the rafters. The whey drips onto the floor, and the dogs lick it. The cheese is fresh and white, and you eat it with bread. The bread is still dark, still thin, but the cheese makes it better. The goats are jealous of the calf. They push against the cow, and the cow pushes back. You separate them with a hurdle, a wooden frame that you lean against the wall. The goats stay on one side, and the cow and calf on the other. The billy goat butts the hurdle, but it holds. The chickens start laying again. The days are longer now, and the light is stronger. You find an egg in the nest box. Then another. You boil them and give them to the children. Tom eats his in 2 bites. Agnes saves half of hers for later. You have food now. Not much, but more than before. The cow gives milk and the milk gives cheese. The chickens give eggs. The calf will grow, and in a year she will give milk too. You have survived the worst part of the winter. The rest will be easier. Robert says, the wood is still low. You say, the cold is less. He says, we still need wood. You say, we will gather more. The snow is melting, and the ground is wet. The forest is muddy, but you can reach the fallen branches. You go together, Robert with the axe, you with a rope. The children stay in the cottage, playing with the calf. The calf is curious. She follows Agnes around the byre, and Agnes laughs. The sound of laughter is strange. You have not heard it for so long that it startles you. Agnes laughs again, and you smile. The winter is not over, but the laughter is a sign. The light is returning. You gather wood. The branches are wet, but you stack them by the hearth to dry. The fire hisses, but it burns. The room is warm. The children sit by the fire, and Agnes tells Tom a story. It is the story of the calf, of her birth, of the night when the snow was falling. Tom listens, and his eyes are wide. You look at the woodpile. It is still small, but it will grow. The winter will end. The spring will come. The cow will graze in the meadow, and the calf will run. The chickens will scratch in the dirt, and the goats will climb the hill. You will have food. You will be warm. You think of the byre. The walls are patched, the roof is sound, and the animals are alive. The calf is healthy, and the cow is strong. The goats are restless, but they are alive. The chickens are laying. You have done your work. The winter has not beaten you. You go to the byre at night. The lantern flickers, and the shadows move. The animals are sleeping. The cow lies on the straw, her calf beside her. The chickens are silent on their perch. You stand in the dark and listen to their breathing. The sound is steady. The sound is life. You return to the cottage. The fire is low, and you add a log. The flames leap, and the room warms. The children are asleep, and the room warms. The children are asleep, and Robert is dozing by the hearth. You sit beside him, and he opens his eyes. He says, the calf is strong. You say, she will live. He says, we will live too. You do not answer. You lean against him, and the fire crackles. You sleep. You dream of the byre. The cow is standing, and the calf is nursing. The goats are quiet. The chickens are pecking at the straw. The sun is warm, and the door is open. You are not cold. You are not hungry. You are home. You wake. The fire is low, and the room is dark. You add kindling, and the flames return. You go to the byre. The cow is awake, and she moos when she sees you. You fill the manger with hay, and she eats. The calf nudges your hand. You stroke her head, and her fur is soft. You milk the cow. The milk is warm, and the bucket fills. You carry it to the cottage and pour it into a clay pot. The children will drink it for breakfast. Tom wakes and sees the pot. He says, milk? You say, yes. He smiles. The day begins. The sun is higher. The snow is melting. The byre is warm. The animals are alive. You are alive. The winter is not over, but you are not afraid. You have done this before. You will do it again. The calf will grow. The milk will flow. The spring will come. You go to the byre again. The cow turns her head, and her eyes are soft. You touch her flank, and she shifts her weight. The calf is sleeping. The goats are quiet. The chickens are waiting for the light. You stand in the byre, and the silence is deep. The animals breathe, and you breathe with them. The winter is long, but you are not alone. The cow is with you. The calf is with you. The goats are with you. The goats are with you. The goats are with you. You are a family, all of you, in the dark, in the cold, waiting for the spring. You go inside. The fire is warm. The children are awake. The milk is ready. You pour it into cups, and they drink. The bread is on the table. The cheese is on the board. You eat. The food is simple, but it is enough. The winter is still here, but the worst is past. You have the animals. You have the eggs. You have hope. You have the eggs. You have the hope. The calf is Hope. Her name is Hope. You say it to yourself when the cold returns, when the wood is low, when the bread is thin. Hope. The word is small, but it is strong. You hold it in your chest like a coal, and it keeps you warm. You go to the byre, the calf is standing. She is stronger today. She walks to the manger and sniffs the hay. She walks to the manger and sniffs the hay. She is crowing. You stroke her back, and she does not flinch. She trusts you. You are her world. You are the world for all of them. The cow, the goats, the chickens, the children, they depend on you. You depend on them. The beer is a circle, and the circle is unbroken. You milk the cow. The milk is warm. You give it to the children. They drink. They are healthy. They are alive. The winter is not over, but you are not afraid. You have the beer. You have the animals. You have the eggs. You have the cheese. You have hope. The days grow short in December, and by the middle of the month the sun barely climbs above the trees. You wake in the dark, and you eat in the dark, and you sleep in the dark. The light is a memory, a thin gold line that appears for a few hours and then fades. You have no candles. Candles are made from tallow, the fat of sheep and cows, and you need the fat for cooking. The few candles you had are gone, burned in the autumn when the days were still long enough to see by. Now you have the fire, and the fire is enough. You learn to see in the dark. Your eyes adjust slowly, and the shapes in the cottage become familiar. The table is a darker square against the wall. The chest is a low block by the door. The children are lumps under the blanket, and Robert is a larger lump beside them. You move without bumping into things. Your hands remember where everything is. The fire gives the only light. The flames flicker, and the shadows move. The walls are grey, and the faces of your family are orange and black. When the fire burns low, the room is almost black. You sit in the blackness and listen. The wind is outside, and the frazzles. The cow shifts in the byre, and her hoof scrapes the packed earth. The children breathe, slow and steady. Robert carves by touch. He sits on the stool near the hearth, and the fire gives just enough light for his hands. He carves spoons from birch wood, the wood soft and pale. His knife is sharp, and he works slowly, feeling the shape with his fingers. He does not need to see. He has carved 100 spoons. The shavings fall on the floor, and Agnes gathers them for kindling. You mend clothes by the fire. The needle is bone, and the thread is linen. The stitches are small, and you work by feel. You hold the cloth close to your face, and the firelight catches the weave. Your eyes are tired, but you do not stop. There is always more mending. The children play in the dark. There is always more mending. They know the cottage by heart, every corner, every stool, every crack in the floor. They do not run. They walk carefully, their hands out. They make up gains, small ones, with words instead of movements. Agnes tells stories to Tom, old stories, the ones you have told her. Tom listens, and he asks questions. What happened to the fox? Agnes says, the fox ran away. Tom says, why? Agnes says, because the hedgehog was too clever. You tell stories too. You sit by the fire, and the children sit on your lap. You tell the story of St. Martin, who cut his cloak in half to share with a beggar. You tell the story of the 3 wise men following the star. You tell the story of the girl who found a golden key in the snow. The children listen, and their eyes are wide, but they cannot see your face. They see the pictures in their minds. Tom falls asleep on your lap. His body is warm, and his breath is soft. You hold him, and his breath is soft. You hold him, and he's continue the story. Agnes listens until her eyes close. You carry her to the bed, and she does not wake. You lie down beside her, and Robert banks the fire. The embers glow, and the room darkens. The silence is deep. You lie in the dark and listen. The wind has stopped. The wind has stopped. The thatch is still. The cow is quiet. You hear your own heart, a slow thud in your ears. You hear Robert breathing, and Agnes breathing, and Tom breathing. The sounds are small, but they fill the darkness. You think about the light. The sun will return. It always returns. The days will grow longer, and the candles will not be needed. You will see the faces of your children in the morning, the light on their cheeks. You will see the green of the fields, the brown of the soil, the white of the clouds. You will see the cow and the byre, the goats on the hill, the chickens scratching in the yard. The light is not gone. It is only hiding. You sleep. You dream of the sun. It is high and white, and the fields are gold. You are walking through the wheat, and the stalks brush against your legs. Agnes is running ahead, and Tom is on your hip. Robert is behind you, carrying a scythe. The sun is warm, and you are not cold. You wake. The room is dark. The embers are grey. You stir them, and a spark glows. You add kindling, and the flames return. The light is small, but it is enough. You see the children, their faces soft in the firelight. They are still asleep. You sit by the hearth and wait for the morning. The darkness presses against the walls, but the fire halts while the darkness is not an enemy. It is just the absence of light, and the light will return. The days pass. You learn to work in the dark. You grind the rye between two stones, and the flour is coarse. You knead the dough by feel, and the bread rises by the fire. You sweep the floor without seeing the dirt. You trust your hands. The children learn too. Agnes can find her shoes in the dark. Tom can find his cup. They know the sounds of the cottage, the creak of the door, the rattle of the pot, the hiss of the fire. They are not afraid. They have never known a winter without darkness. Robert says, "The days are getting longer. I can feel it." You say, "The sun sets later." He says, "A little, not much." He is right. The change is small, but it is there. You sit in the dark after supper. The fire is low, and you do not add wood. The wood is precious, and you save it for the morning. The room is black, and you sit on the stool, your hands in your lap. The children are in the bed, and Robert is beside them. You are alone in the darkness. You think about the stories your mother told you. She told them in the dark, in this same cottage, when you were small. Her voice was low, and the words were old. You remember some of them, the ones about the saints, the ones about the green man, the ones about the fox and the hedgehog. You tell them to your children now. The stories are a chain, and the chain is unbroken. You think about the light. The light is not just the sun. The light is the fire, the candle, the lamp. The light is the moon on the snow, the stars in the sky, the glow of the embers. The light is the memory of summer, the hope of spring. The light is in your chest, a small flame that never goes out. You go to the bed. The children are warm. Robert is warm. You lie down and close your eyes. The darkness is deep, but you are not alone. The children are with you. Robert is with you. The cow is in the byre, and the chickens are on their perch. The cottage is full of life, even in the dark. You sleep. You dream of the stars. They are bright, and they fill the sky. You are standing in the field, and the snow is deep. The stars are reflected in the snow, and the snow is deep. The stars are reflected in the snow, and the world is silver. You are not cold. The light is warm. You wake. The fire is low. You add a log, and the flames leap. The room lightens. The children wake, and their faces are soft. Agnes says, "Is it morning?" You say, "Yes." She sits up and rubs her eyes. She says, "I dreamed of the stars." You say, "The stars are beautiful in winter." She says, "I want to see them." You say, "Tonight, we will look at the stars." The day passes. You work, you eat, you mend. The sun rises late, and it sets early. The light is grey, and the shadows are long. You go outside to gather kindling, and the snow is deep. The sky is clear, and the air is cold. You look up, and the sun is a pale disk. It gives no warmth, but it is light. You go inside. The fire is warm. The children are by the hearth. Tom is building a tower of twigs, and Agnes is watching. Robert is carving a spoon. The room is small, but it is full. The sun sets. The sky turns pink, then purple, then black. The stars appear, first one, then a dozen, then 1,000. You open the door and the cold rushes in. The children stand beside you and you look up. Agnes says, "They are so many." Tom says, "I want to touch one." You say, They are too far. He says, "I will jump." You hold him, and he jumps, and his hands reach toward the sky. You close the door. The fire is low, and you add a log. The flames leap, and the room warms. You sit by the hearth, and the children sit on your lap. You tell a story about the stars, the one about the shepherd who followed the star to the stable. The children listen, and their eyes are wide. Tom falls asleep. Agnes falls asleep. You carry them to the bed. Robert banks the fire. The embers glow, and the room darkens. You lie down and close your eyes. The darkness is deep, but you are not afraid. The stars are still there, even when you cannot see them. The light is still there, even when you cannot see them. The light is still there, even when the spring is still there, even when the snow is deep. You wait. You are good at waiting. The winter is long, but the days are growing. You can feel it. The sun sets a little later, and the dawn comes a little earlier. The change is small, but it is real. You hold on to it like a thread. You sit in the dark. The fire is low, and you do not add wood. The room is black. You listen. The wind is soft. The fat is still. The cow is quiet. You hear your own breath and the breath of your family. The sounds are small, but they fill the darkness. You are not alone. The light will return. You know this. The sun will rise and the days will grow long. The fields will turn green and the flowers will bloom. The cow will graze in the meadow and the calf will run. The children will play outside and the faces will be brown from the sun. The winter is a memory and the past will run from the sun. The winter is a memory. You sleep. You dream of the spring. The snow is gone and the ground is wet. You are walking through the field and the grass is soft. Agnes is running ahead and Tom is on your hip. Robert is behind you carrying a scythe. The sun is warm and you are not cold. You wake. The fire is low. You add a log and the flames leap. The room lightens. The children wake and their faces are soft. The day begins. The winter is still here, but the light is coming. You can feel it. You go to the door. The sky is grey, but the clouds are thin. The sun is a pale disk behind them. You look at it, and you think of the spring. The spring is not here, but it is coming. The light is returning. The light is returning. You close the door. The fire is warm. The children are by the hearth. Tom is building a tower of twigs, and Agnes is watching. Robert is carving a spoon. The room is small, but it is full. The darkness is deep, but the light is inside you. You carry it with you. You are the light. The clothes wear thin in the winter. You notice it first on Robert's tunic, the elbows warm to a pale fuzz that tears when he lifts his arms. Then you see the knees of your own dress. The wool rubs smooth from kneeling by the hearth. The children's tunics are worse. Agnes has outgrown hers, and the sleeves end above her wrists. Tom's tunic is patched already, and the patches are fraying. You have no new cloth. The wool you spun in the summer is gone, made into tunics that are now worn. The linen you wove is gone, made into shifts that are now thin. You have only the clothes on your backs and the pile of old rags in the chest. You take the rags out and spread them on the table. They are scraps from old tunics, old shifts, old blankets. They are faded and soft, but they are cloth. You cut a piece from an old shift, the linen pale and thin. You hold it against the tear in Robert's elbow. The linen is not wool, but it will do. You thread the bone needle with linen thread, the same thread you use for everything. The thread is rough and it tangles. You smooth it with your fingers and begin to sew. The needle pierces the wool and the linen. You push it through, pull it tight, and push it through again. The stitches are small and even. You work slowly, and the fire crackles. The children play on the floor, and Robert sits on the stool watching you. He does not speak. He knows that mending takes patience. The elbow takes an hour. You tie the thread and bite it off. You hold the tunic up to the light. The patch is grey against the brown wool, but it will hold. Robert takes the tunic and puts it on. He bends his arm, and the patch stretches. He nods. You have saved the tunic for another winter. You mend your own dress next. The knees are thin, and you cut patches from an old blanket. The blanket is wool, thick and scratchy. You sew the patches over the knees, and the dress is stiff now, but it is warm. You will not feel the cold floor when you kneel. Agnes needs a new tunic. You have no cloth, but you have Robert's old tunic, the one he wore before you were married. It is too small for him now, and it hangs in the chest. You take it out and hold it against Agnes. The tunic is long, and the sleeves fall past her hands. You will cut it down. You lay the tunic on the table. You measure with your hands the width of Agnes's shoulders, the length of her arms. You cut the wool with the iron knife, and the blade is sharp. The pieces fall on the floor, and Tom picks them up. He wraps a scrap around his wrist and says, "Look." You say, "You look like a lord." He laughs. You sew the pieces together. The stitches are small, and you work by the fire. The wool is thick, and your fingers ache. You push the needle through, and the thread pulls tight. Agnes watches you. She says, "Will it be blue?" The tunic is brown, the color of sheep. You say, "It will be warm." She says, "I like blue." You say, "Blue is for the rich, brown is for us." She does not argue. She is old enough to know. The tunic takes 2 days. You work in the afternoons when the light is best. The sun is low and the fire is bright. You hold the cloth close to the flames and the stitches are even. Agnes tries on the tunic. It is too long, and you hem the bottom. It is loose, and you take in the sides. She stands still, and you pin the cloth with thorns. She says, "It is scratchy." You say, "Wool is scratchy. You will get used to it." She wears the tunic the next day. She does not complain. The sleeves are long, and she folds them back. The hem is uneven, but it does not matter. She is warm. Tom's shoes are falling apart, the leather is cracked, and his toes push through the ends. You have no leather, but you have a piece of old hide from the pig. The hide is stiff and rough, but you soak it in water to soften it. You cut pieces to cover the toes and sew them on with linen thread. The thread is not strong enough for leather, but it will hold for a while. You patch the soles with layers of linen, old rags folded and sewn together. The shoes are lumpy, and Tom complains. You tell him to be still. He sits on the stool, and you work on his feet. The shoes are ugly, but they keep the snow out. You mend the blanket. The wool has worn thin in the middle, and the holes let the cold through. You cut patches from an old tunic, one that cannot be saved, and sew them over the holes. The blanket is heavy now, patched and lumpy, but it is warm. You fold it at the foot of the bed. Robert says, "We need new blankets." You say, "We need sheep." He says, "The sheep are the Lord's." You say, "Then we need wool." He says, "We have no money for wool." You say, "We will make do." You take apart an old shift, the one your mother wore. The linen is thin and yellow, but it is still cloth. You cut it into strips and braid the strips together. The braid is long and soft, and you sew it around the edge of the blanket. The blanket is warmer now, the braid keeping the air from escaping. You show the blanket to Robert. He touches the braid and says, "Your mother's shift?" You say, "Yes." He says, "She would be glad." You say, "She would be glad." You say, "She would want us to be warm." The children grow. Their clothes shrink. You let out the hems, and the hems are shallow. You add patches to the elbows, and the patches are many. The tunics are a map of mending, each patch a story. This patch is from Robert's old tunic, that patch from a blanket that was already patched. The clothes are not beautiful, but they are warm. You work by the fire, the needle is bone, and the thread is linen. Your hands are cracked, and the cracks catch on the wool. You lick your fingers to smooth them. The children play, and Robert carves. The fire crackles, and the wind blows. The cottage is small, but it is full. You think of the spring. In the spring you will wash the clothes and hang them in the sun. The sun will bleach the patches, and the colors will fade. The clothes will be clean, and the dirt will wash away. But the patches will remain, a record of the winter, a map of survival. You mend a tear in Robert's shirt. The tear is under the arm, and the cloth is thin. You cut a patch from a scrap of linen, a piece of an old shift that was your mother's. You sew the patch with small stitches, and the linen is soft. Robert puts on the shirt and says, "It is comfortable." You say, "Linen is soft." He says, "Your mother knew how to weave." You say, "She taught me." You think of your mother. She sat in this same cottage by this same hearth, mending clothes for you. Her hands were cracked and her needle was bone. She taught you to sew small stitches, to cut patches from worn cloth, to make do with what you had. She is gone now, but her hands are in yours. You mend a tear in Agnes's tunic. The tear is on the shoulder, and the wool is thin. You cut a patch from the hem of Robert's old tunic, the one you already cut down. The patch is brown, and the tunic is brown. The mend will not show. Agnes says, "Can I sew?" You say, "You are too young." The needle is sharp. She says, "I am not afraid." You give her a scrap of cloth and a blunt needle. She tries to sew and the thread tangles. You untangle it and show her again. She tries and the stitches are crooked. You say, "You will learn." Tom is 3. He does not ask to sew. He plays with the wooden horse and he sings a song. The song has no words, just a tune that he makes up. You listen and the tune is sweet. You mend the bag that holds the flour. The cloth is old and the flour leaks. You sew the holes with linen thread and the stitches are tight. You fill the bag with the last of the rye and the flour does not leak. You hang the bag from the hook and it is safe. You mend the rope that pulls the bucket from the well. The rope is frayed and you wrap it with strips of linen. The linen is soft and you tie it tight. The rope is strong now and you lower it into the well. The bucket comes up full. The rope holds. You mend the handle of the axe. The wood is cracked and you wrap it with leather. The leather is from the pig and you soak it first. You tie it with twine and the handle is solid. Robert swings the axe and the wood does not move. He says, "Good work." You mend the thatch. The roof leaks and the water drips onto the floor. You climb a ladder and you push fresh reeds into the holes. The reeds are dry and they crack. You tie them with twine and the roof holds. The water stops dripping. You mend the walls. The daub falls in chunks and the wind blows through. You mix clay and straw and horsehair and you press it into the gaps. Your hands are cold and the clay is stiff. You move it with a stone and the wall hair and you press it into the gaps. Your hands are cold and the clay is stiff. You mend the wall is solid. The wind instead. The clay is cracked and the fire burns through. You mix fresh clay and spread it over the cracks. The clay hardens and the fire stays in its place. The room is warmer. You mend the bed. The frame is loose and the ropes are slack. You tighten the ropes and the bed is firm. You add straw to the mattress and the children sleep deeper. You mend everything. The work is endless and the winter is long. But each mend everything. The work is endless and the winter is long. But at each mend and the command, each stitch holds the family together. You sit by the fire. The children are asleep and Robert is carving. You hold a tunic in your lap and you sew. The needle moves slowly and the thread is long. You think of the spring. In the spring, you will not need to mend so much. The clothes will dry in the sun and the wool will be soft. The children will run outside and the patches will not show. The winter is a time of mending and the spring is a time of wearing. You finish the tunic, you hold it up and the stitches are straight. You fold it and set it on the chest. Robert looks up and says, "You are good with a needle." You say, "I have had practice." He says, "The children are warm." You say, "They are warm." You bank the fire. The embers glow and the room darkens. You lie on the bed and the children are warm against you. The patches on the blanket scratch your chin, but you do not mind. The patches on the blanket scratch your chin, but you do not mind. The patches are a sign. You have survived another day. You drop. The clothes are clean and the patches are pale. The children are running and their tunics are whole. You are sitting by the door and your hands are still. There is no mending to do. The sun is warm and you rest. You wake. The fire is low. You add. The wake. The fire is low. You add a log and the flames leap. The children wake and their faces are soft Agnes says, "My tunic is warm." You say, "The wool is good." She says, "The patch is soft." You say, "Your grandmother's shift." She says, "I wish I knew her." You say, "She knew you." She is in the stitches. You dress, you eat, you mend. The day is the same, but the clothes are stronger. The winter is long, but the mending holds the thread holds the cloth holds the family. You are all tied together, stitch by stitch. You think of the spring will come, and the mending will end, but the stitches will remain. They will be in the clothes, and the clothes will be on the children. The children will carry the stitches with them. They will carry you. You mend, you sew, you wait. The winter passes, stitch by stitch. The cough starts with Agnes. It is a dry cough at first, a small sound that you hear in the night. You lie in the dark, and you listen. She coughs again, and then she is quiet. You think it is nothing, just a tickle in her throat from the smoke. The fire is smoky, and the thatch leaks smoke into the room. Everyone coughs sometimes, but the cough does not go away. It gets worse. Agnes coughs in the morning, and her face is red. She coughs after eating, and her hide You give her water, and she drinks. The water helps for a moment, and then she coughs again. You feel her forehead. It is warm. Not hot, not burning, but warm. You put your cheek against hers, and she is warmer than she should be. You know this feeling. You have had it yourself. It is the beginning of a fever. Tom starts coughing too. His cough is wet, a rattling sound deep in his chest. He is smaller than Agnes, and the sickness moves faster than him. He does not want to eat. He pushes the bread away. He does not want to drink. You hold the cup to his lips, and he takes a small sip. He swallows, and he coughs. The water spills on his tunic. You think of the herbs. In the summer, you gathered thyme and yarrow and chamomile. You hung them in bundles from the rafters, and they dried slowly. The thyme is for fevers. The chamomile is for sleep. The yarrow is for fevers. You take the bundles down and crumble the dried leaves into a clay pot. You pour hot water from the kettle, and the herbs steep. The smell is sharp and green, a memory of summer in the winter dark. You give the tea to Agnes. She drinks it slowly, her nose wrinkled. The thyme is bitter, and she does not like it. You say, "Drink, it will help." She drinks, and she coughs. You hold her, and her body is warm. You give tea to Tom. He does not want it. He turns his head away, and the tea drips on his chin. You dip your finger in the cup and put the drops on his lips. He licks them, and his face twists. You say, "Just a little." He takes a sip, and he coughs. The cough is deep, and you can hear the phlegm in his chest. You put them to bed. The blanket is patched, but it is warm. You cover them to bed. Agnes shivers, and Tom is still. You sit by the fire and watch them. Robert is in the byre, milking the cow. The cow gives milk now, and the milk is good. You'll give the children warm milk with honey, but the honey is gone. You have no honey. You have only the herbs. The fever rises in the night. You wake to the sound of Agnes moaning. You go to the bed, and her face is flushed. Her eyes are closed, and her lips are dry. You touch her forehead, and it is hot. You wet a rag with cool water and press it to her head. She sighs, and her body relaxes. Tom is hot too. His cheeks are red, and his breath is fast. He does not moan. He is quiet, and the quiet scares you. You put the rag on his forehead, and he does not move. You hold his hand, and his fingers are small. You sit by the bed. The fire is low, and the room is dark. You add a log, and the flames leap. The light is dim, but you can see their faces. Agnes is sleeping, and her lips are moving. She is dreaming. Tom is still, and his chest rises and falls. You count his breaths. They are fast, but they are steady. Robert comes in from the byre. He sees you by the bed, and he knows. He sits beside you, and he does not speak. You sit together, and the fire crackles. The children sleep, and the coughs are quiet for now. You think of your mother. She had herbs for everything. She knew which plants healed and which plants killed. She taught you some, but not all. She died before she could teach you everything. You know thyme for coughs, yarrow for fevers, chamomile for sleep. You know willow bark for pain, but you have no willow bark. The willow trees are by the stream, but the stream is frozen and the bark is under the snow. You brew more tea. The thyme is strong and the steam rises. You wake Agnes and give her the cup. She drinks and her hands shake. You hold the cup for her and she finishes it. You give her a piece of bread and she eats a little. She is hungry and that is good. The hungry are not dying. Tom will not eat. You try to give him bread and he turns away. You try to give him tea and he spits it out. You dip your finger in the tea and put it on his lips. He licks and he swallows. You do it again and again. He takes a little. It is not enough, but it is something. The days pass, the children stay in bed, you bring them water and tea and bread. Agnes eats a little more each day. Tom eats almost nothing. He is thin and his ribs show through his tunic. You hold him and his body is light. He coughs and the cough is wet. You pat his back and the phlegm loosens. He spits it into a rag and the rag is yellow. Robert says, "Should we get the priest?" You say, "The priest cannot heal." He says, "He can pray." You say, "We can pray." You do not say that the priest is old and the road is deep. You do not say that the priest would not come. You do not say that the priest would not come. You do not say that you are afraid. You pray. You kneel by the bed and you pray to St. Margaret, who was swallowed by a dragon and cut her way out. You pray to St. Martin, who shared his cloak. You pray to Mary, who held her son when he was dying. You pray in words that you learned as a child, and the words are old. You do not know if they are heard, but you say them anyway. Agnes gets better. Her fever drops and her cough softens. She sits up in bed and asks for bread. You give her a piece, and she eats it slowly. She drinks a cup of milk, and the milk is warm. She says, "Tom is still sick." You say Tom will get better too. Tom does not get better. His fever stays high and his cough is deep. He does not eat, he does not drink. He lies in the bed and his eyes are open, but he does not see. You hold him and you rock him. His body is hot and his breath is fast. You think of the cow. When the cow is sick, you give her warm water and hay. You let her rest. You cannot do more. The cow survives or she does not. The children are the same. You can give them tea and bread and milk. You can hold them and pray. The rest is not in your hands. You remember a story your mother told you. A woman had a child who was dying. She went to the forest and found a root. She boiled the root and gave the water to the child. The child lived. You do not know the forest. The snow is deep and the roots are buried. Robert says, "I will go to the village. The healer woman lives there." You say, "The road is deep. The snow is high." He says, "I will go." He puts on his coat and his boots. He takes the staff. He goes out the door and the snow is falling. You watch him through the window and he disappears into the white. You wait. The fire burns low and wood. The children sleep. Tom coughs and you hold him. His body is hot and you are afraid. The hours pass. The sun sets and the room is dark. You light a rushlight and the flame is small. You sit by the bed and you wait. Tom wakes and looks at you. His eyes are clear. He says, "Are clear." He says, "A mama." You say, "I am here." He closes his eyes. Robert comes back in the dark. His coat is white with snow and his beard is frozen. He has a small bundle in his hand. He unwraps it and there is a root. It is brown and knotted and it smells of earth. He says, "The healer gave it. She said to boil it and give the water to the child." You take the root and put it in the pot. You add water and set it on the fire. The water boils and the smell is strong. It is not the smell is strong. It is not the smell of the forest, of damp earth and old wood. You let it boil for a long time and the water turns brown. You strain it into a cup and let it cool. You wake Tom. He opens his eyes and they are glassy. You hold the cup to his lips. He drinks a little and his face twists. He drinks more, and he swallows. You give him the whole cup, and he drinks it all. He lies back, and his eyes close. You sit by the bed. The fire crackles and the room is warm. You wait. Robert sits beside you, and you hold hands. The children sleep, and the silence is deep. Tom's fever breaks in the night. You wake to find him wet with sweat. His hair is damp, and his tunic is soaked. You touch his forehead, and it is cool. His breath is slow, and his cough is softened. You change his tunic, and wrap him in a dry blanket. He opens his eyes and looks at you. He says, "Mama." You say, "I am here." He says, "Hungry." You give him a piece of bread, and he eats it slowly. You give him milk, and he drinks. He sleeps again, and his face is peaceful. Agnes wakes in the morning. She sits up and looks at Tom. She says, "He is better." You say, "He is better." She says, "The root worked." You say, "The root worked." You do not know if it was the root or the prayer or the waiting. You do not care. He is alive. The children get stronger. Tom eats bread and milk and a little cheese. Agnes runs around the cottage, and her cough is gone. The sickness has passed, and the winter is still here, but the children are alive. You go to the byre. The cow is well, and the calf is growing. The goats are restless, and the chickens are laying. You milk the cow, and the milk is warm. You give it to the children, and they drink. You sit by the fire. The children play, and Robert carves. The cough is a memory now, a bad memory, but a memory. You think of the healer woman in the village. You have never met her. She lives in a small hut at the edge of the woods. She is old, and she knows the roots. Robert says she asked for nothing. She gave the root and sent him away. You will thank her in the spring when the road is clear. You think of the root. You do not know its name. You do not know where to find it, but you know that it exists. The forest has secrets, and the secrets can heal. You hold Tom. He is warm, but not hot. He is heavy, and you feel the weight of him. He is alive. Agnes sits beside you, and she leans against your arm. You are tired, but the tiredness is good. The tiredness means you have stayed awake. You have watched. You have waited. You have kept them alive. The winter is not over. There will be more cold, more dark, more hunger. But the sickness has passed. You have faced it, and you have won. But the sickness has pretty fav. You have the herbs, the root, the fire, the wool. You have the children. You have Robert. You have yourself. You bank the fire. The embers glow, and the room darkens. You lie on the bed, and the children are warm against you. Tom puts his hand on your face, and his fingers are small. You close your eyes. You sleep. You dream of the spring. The snow is gone, and the ground is wet. You are walking through the forest, and the trees are green. You see a root, brown and knotted, half hidden in the leaves. You pick it up, and it is warm. You put it in your pocket. You walk to the healer's hut, and she is sitting by the door. She is old, and her eyes are kind. You give her the root, and she smiles. She says, "You do not need it now." You say, "I want to know its name." She says, "Its name is life." You wake. The fire is low. You add a log, and the flames leap. The children are sleeping. Their faces are soft. The cough is gone. The fever is gone. The winter is still here, but the children are alive. You go to the byre. The cow turns her head, and her eyes are soft. You milk her, and the milk is warm. You carry it to the cottage and pour it into cups. The children wake, and they drink. The day begins. The winter continues. You are not afraid. The thaw comes in the middle of January. You wake to a sound that is different from the sound of wind. It is the sound of water, dripping from the thatch, dripping from the eaves, dripping from the branches of the trees. You lie in the bed and listen. The drops are slow at first, then faster. The snow is melting. You go to the door and open it. The air is not cold. It is cool, but it does not bite. The snow is wet, and your feet sink. The sky is grey, but the grey is soft. The sun is hidden, but the light is brighter than it has been in weeks. You stand in the doorway and you feel the drip on your face. The water is cold, but it is not ice. Robert comes up behind you. He looks at the sky and says, "The thaw has come." You say, "It is early." He says, "The winter is not over. The cold will return." You know this. You have seen false thaws before. But the water is dripping and the sound is sweet. The children wake. Agnes runs to the door and looks out. She says, "The snow is melting." Tom follows her and he pushes past you to stand outside. His feet are bare and the wet snow squelches between his toes. He laughs. You pull him back inside and put his shoes on. You go to the byre. The cow is standing and her head is turned toward the door. She smells the thaw. The air is soft and the animals are restless. The chickens scratch at the straw and the goats bleat. You fork hay into the manger and they eat. The stream is high. You walk to the stream with the yoke and the buckets, and the path is muddy. Your shoes are wet, but you do not mind. The water is brown and fast. The ice is gone from the edges and the open channel is wide. You dip the buckets and they fill quickly. The water is cold, but it is not frozen. You carry the buckets home. The yoke creaks and your shoulders ache. But the walking is easier. The snow is soft and your feet do not slip. You tell the children to put on their coats. You will go to the forest. The snow is melting and the fallen branches are uncovered. You need wood. The pile is low and the winter is not over. You walk to the forest. Agnes walks beside you and Tom rides on your hip. The snow is wet and your legs are tired. The trees are bare and the branches are dark. You find a fallen oak. Its bark loose, its wood grey. Robert swings the axe and the blade bites. The wood splits and the sound is sharp. You gather the branches. Your hands are wet and the bark is rough. You stack the wood on a sled, a wooden frame that Robert made years ago. The sled is old, but it holds. Tom sits on the wood and you pull the sled back. The runners cut through the wet snow and Tom laughs. The wood is wet, but you stack it by the hearth. The fire will dry it. The fire will burn it. The winter will not end, but you have wood. The thaw lasts for 3 days. The snow melts, and the ground is brown. The stream is high, and the well is full. You draw water from the well, and the rope is smooth. The bucket comes up heavy, and the water is clear. The children play outside. They build a small fort from the wet snow, and the fort collapses. They build it a small fort from the wet snow, and the fort collapses. They build it again. Their cheeks are red, and their hands are wet. You call them inside, and they come. You think the winter is ending. You think the spring is early. You tell Robert perhaps the cold is over. He says perhaps, but he does not believe it. He has seen more winters than you. On the 4th day, the wind shifts. You wake in the night to a sound that is not the sound of dripping. It is the sound of wind, a low moan that finds the cracks in the walls. The room is cold and your breath steams. You sit up and the fire is low. The embers are grey. You add kindling and the flames return. You go to the door. The snow is not melting. The snow is hard, crusted with ice. The sky is clear and the stars are bright. The air is cold, the kind of cold that burns your nose. The thaw is over. The thaw is the ketkurdi kaldik of the kalodical eternor. You close the door. Robert is awake. He says, "The cold is back." You say, "Yes." He says, "The wood is low." You say, "We will gather more." But the snow is hard and the branches are buried. You walk to the forest and the crust cuts your legs. The wood is frozen to the ground. You pull and the branches break. You gather a small pile, smaller than before. The wood is wet and it hisses on the fire. The children are quiet. They do not ask to play outside. The cold is sharp and they stay by the hearth. Agnes mends a doll and Tom watches the flames. You tell a story, the one about the hedgehog and the fox. They listen and their eyes are tired. The false thaw has taken something from you. It gave you hope and then it took the hope away. You are more tired than before. The winter is longer than you remembered. Robert says, "The days are getting longer. The sun sets later." You say, "A little." He says, "The cold will not last forever." You say, "No, but it will last." You sit by the fire, the wood is low, and you add a small log, the flames are thin. You think of the spring. The spring is a promise, but the promise is far away. You must get through the winter first. You must get through the cold, the dark, the hunger. You have done it before. You will do it again. The cow is restless, the calf is growing, and the milk is rich. You give the milk to the children and they drink. The chickens lay an egg, then another. You boil them and give them to Tom. He is small and he needs the food. You go to the beer. The cow turns her head and her eyes are soft. You touch her flank and she shifts her weight. The calf is sleeping on the straw. Its legs are tucked under its body and its breath is slow. You cover it with a sack and it does not wake. The goats are restless. The billy butts the wall and the nanny bleats. You give them hay and they quiet. The chickens peck at the straw, looking for seeds. You return to the cottage. The fire is low and you add a log. The flames leap and the room warms. The children are sleeping and Robert is carving. You sit by the hearth and watch the fire. The flames are orange and yellow and the shadows dance on the walls. You think of the thaw. The water dripping, the soft air, the hope. It was a gift even if it was false. It reminded you that the spring exists. The spring is real, even if it is far away. The cold will end. The snow will melt. The sun will melt. The sun will warm the fields. You bank the fire. The embers glow and the room darkens. You lie on the bed. The children are warm against you. Tom puts his hand on your face and his fingers are small. You close your eyes. You dream of the spring. The snow is gone and the ground is wet. You are walking through the field and the grass is green. The cow is grazing and the calf is running. The children are playing and their faces are brown from the sun. You sit on a stone and your hands are still. There is no mending to do. The winter is a memory. You wake. The fire is low. You add a log and the flames leap. The children are still asleep. Robert is in the by. The day is beginning. The winter is still here, but the hope is not gone. It is small, like a coal in the ashes. You blow on it, and it glows. You go to the stream. The water is cold, but the ice is thin. You break it with your fist, and the water flows. You dip the bucket, and it fills. You carry it home. The yoke creaks, and your shoulders ache. The path is muddy, and your shoes are wet. You do not complain. The water is there. The water is life. You give the children water. They drink. You drink. The water is cold, but it is wet. You eat bread. The bread is dark and thin, but it is bread. You eat it slowly, and the hunger eases. You give a piece to Tom, and he eats it. He is small, but he is growing. You go to the byre. The cow is standing, and her udder is full. You milk her, and the milk is warm. You carry it to the cottage and give it to the children. They drink, and their lips are white. The day passes. The sun rises late, and it sets early. The light is grey, but it is light. You work by the fire, mending a tear in Robert's tunic. The needle is bone, and the thread is linen. Your hands are cracked, but they are steady. The false thaw has passed. The winter is back, but you are still here. You have wood, not much, but enough. You have food, not much, but enough. You have water, not much, but enough. You have the children, and they are alive. You have Robert, and he is strong. You have yourself, and you are not broken. The days grow longer. You can feel it. The sun sets later, and the dawn comes earlier. The change is small, but it is real. You hold on to it, like a thread. The thread is thin, but it does not break. You go to the forest. The snow is crusted, but the branches are there. You gather wood, and the pile grows. The wood is wet, but the fire will dry it. You carry it home, and your arms ache. You stack it by the hearth, and the stack is higher. Robert says, "The winter is not over, but the worst is past." You say, "The worst is past." You do not know if it is true, but you say it anyway. The children need to believe. You need to believe. You sit by the fire. The flames are low, and you add a log. The wood hisses, but it burns. The room is warm. The children are sleeping, and Robert is carving. You watch the fire, and you think of the spring. The spring is coming. The thaw was a promise, even if it was false. The promise is still there. The spring is still there. You bank the fire. The embers glow, and the room darkens. You lie on the bed. The children are warm against you. Tom puts his hand on your face, and his fingers are small. You close your eyes. You dream of the thaw. The water is dripping, and the air is soft. You are standing in the field, and the snow is melting. The grass is brown, but it is there. The sun is warm, and you take off your shawl. You feel the sun on your arms, and the skin is pale. The children are running, and their feet are bare. You call them, and they come. You wake. The fire is low. You add a log, and the flames leap. The children are still asleep. Robert is in the byre. The day is beginning. The winter is still here, but the spring is closer. You go to the door. The sky is grey, but the grey is lighter. The sun is a pale disk behind the clouds. You look at it, and you think of the thaw. The thaw was a gift. It reminded you that the winter ends. It always ends. You close the door. The fire is warm. The children are waking. Agnes sits up and rubs her eyes. She says, "Is it spring?" You say, "Not yet, soon." She says, "I want to see the flowers." You say, "You will. The flowers will come." You give her bread and milk. She eats. Tom wakes, and you give him bread and milk. He eats. The day begins. The winter continues. But the spring is coming. You can feel it. You go to the byre. The cow is standing, and the calf is nursing. The goats are quiet. The chickens are scratching. You fork hay into the manger, and they eat. You milk the cow, and the milk is warm. You carry it to the cottage. The day passes. You work, you eat, you mend. The sun sets, and the room is dark. You light a rushlight, and the flame is small. You tell a story, the one about the girl who found the golden key. The children listen, and their eyes are wide. Tom falls asleep. Agnes falls asleep. You carry them to the bed. Robert banks the fire. The embers glow, and the room darkens. You lie down and close your eyes. The winter is long, but the days are growing. The spring is not here, but it is coming. You have survived the false thaw, the return of the cold, the hope that was taken away. You are still here. The children are still here. The cow is still here. The calf is growing. You sleep. You dream of the spring. The flowers are blooming, and the grass is green. You are sitting by the door, and you rest. You wake, the fire is low, but mending to do. The sun is warm, and you rest. You wake fire low. You add a log, and the flames leap. The children are still asleep. The day is beginning. The winter is still here, but the spring is closer. You can feel it. You go to the door. The sky is grey, but the grey is soft. The sun is a pale disk, but it is higher than it was. The light is growing. You hold on to the light like a thread. The thread is thin, but it does not break. You will follow it to the spring. The thread is thin, but it does not break. February ends, and the days are longer. You notice it first in the evening. The sun sets later, and the darkness does not come so quickly. You sit by the fire after supper, and the room is still grey. You do not light the rushlight. The light from the fire is enough. The snow is still deep in the shadows, but on the open ground it has melted. The path to the stream is muddy, and your shoes are wet. The stream is high, and the water is brown. The ice is gone, and the water flows fast. You dip the bucket, and it fills quickly. You carry it home, and the yoke creaks. The cow is in the meadow. The snow has melted in the low spots, and the grass is brown, but it is grass. The cow eats, and her head is down. The calf follows her, and its legs are steady. The calf is strong now, and it nurses whenever it wants. The cow gives less milk, but the milk is rich. The goats are in the meadow too. The nanny finds a patch of dry grass, and she eats. The billy climbs a small hill and looks at the forest. He is restless. He wants to go to the woods. You tie him to a stake, and he pulls against the rope. The chickens scratch in the mud. They find worms, and they peck. The eggs come faster now, one a day, sometimes two. You boil them and give them to the children. Tom eats his in 2 bites. Agnes saves half for later. You go to the forest. The snow is gone from the paths, and the ground is wet. The fallen branches are uncovered, and you gather them. The wood is wet, but you stack it by the hearth. The fire will dry it. The pile is higher than it has been in weeks. Robert says, "The worst is over." You say, "The worst is over." You do not know if it is true, but you want it to be true. The children are healthy, the animals are alive. The wood is low, but the cold is less. The spring is coming. You walk to the stream, the water is clear, and you can see the stones at the bottom. You dip your hand in the water, and it is cold. But the cold is not the cold of winter. It is the cold of spring, sharp and clean. You see the first green shoots. They are small, pale, pushing through the wet earth near the stream. You kneel and look at them. They are wild garlic, the first of the year. You pull a leaf and smell it. The smell is sharp, and it makes your eyes water. You put the leaf in your mouth and chew. The taste is strong, but it is green. It is the taste of spring. You pick a handful of leaves and carry them to the cottage. You wash them in a bowl of water and chop them with the knife. You add them to the pottage, and the smell fills the room. The children ask, "What is that?" You say, "Wild garlic. The spring is here." They eat the pottage, and their faces are happy. Tom says, "It is good." Agnes says, "It is green." You eat too, and the taste is the taste of the earth waking up. The days are warmer. You open the door in the morning, and the air is not cold. You leave the door open while you work, and the light comes in. The room is bright, and you see the dust in the air. The children run outside, and you let them go. They play in the mud, and their clothes are dirty. You do not scold them. The dirt is good. The dirt is life. Robert takes the plough to the field. The ground is still hard, but the top is soft. He will wait another week, maybe 2. The spring planting is not yet, but the plough is ready. The harness is mended, and the ox is strong. The cow grazes in the meadow. The grass is brown, but the new shoots are coming. You see them, small and green, hidden under the old growth. The cow finds them and tail swishes. You go to the stream. The water is lower now, and the current is slower. You dip the bucket, and the water is clear. You drink, and the water is cold. It tastes of stone and earth. You see the first flowers. They are small and white, hidden in the grass near the hedge. You do not know their name. You kneel and look at them. Their petals are thin, and their centers are yellow. You touch one, and it is soft. You leave it there. You tell the children the flowers are coming. Agnes says, "Can I pick one?" You say, "Pick one. Leave the rest." She picks a flower and holds it in her hand. She smells it, and she smiles. Tom picks a flower too, and he puts it in his hair. You laugh. The sound of laughter is strange, but it is good. You go to the byre. The cow is lying down, and the calf is sleeping beside her. The goats are in the meadow, and the chickens are scratching. The byre is empty, and the straw is dry. You fork the old straw into a pile. You will use it for the garden. The new straw will come in the summer. You carry a bucket of water to the cottage. The water is clear, and you pour it into the jug. The jug is full. You do not need to melt snow anymore. You do not need to walk to the stream every day. The well is full, and the water is sweet. You draw water from the well. The rope is smooth, and the bucket comes up heavy. The water is cold, and you drink. The children drink. The cow drinks. The spring is here. The bread is still dark, and the pottage is still thin, but the wild garlic makes it better. The milk is rich, and the eggs are fresh. You have food. Not much, but enough. You sit by the fire. The fire is low, and you do not add wood. The room is warm, and the sun is through the window. The leather is stretched, and the light comes in. You see the dust in the air, and the children playing on the floor. Robert comes in from the field. He sits on the stool, and he is tired. You give him bread and milk, and he eats. He says, "The ground is soft. I will plough next week." You say the seed is ready. He says the seed is old, but it will grow. You think of the seed. The rye is from last year, saved in a sack in the corner. The peas are dry and hard. The beans are few. You will plant them, and they will grow, or they will not. You have done this before. You go to the chest, you open the lid, and take out the sack. The rye is dark, and the husks are mixed in. You run your fingers through it. It is enough. It will have to be enough. The days pass. The sun is higher, and the light is stronger. The snow is gone from the field, and the ground is brown. Robert takes the plough, and the ox pulls. The furrow is straight, and the soil turns. You follow with a basket of seed, and you throw it into the furrow. The seed falls, and the birds watch. You wave your arms, and they fly away. Agnes helps. She carries a small basket, and she throws the seed. Her throws are short, and the seed falls in clumps. You show her how to spread it, and she tries. Tom sits on the grass and watches. He picks a flower and puts it in his hair. You plant the peas in a separate patch near the hedge. The soil is soft, and you push the seeds into the ground with your finger. The beans you plant near the wall, where the sun is warm. The garden is small, but it is yours. You water the seeds with water from the well. The water is cold, but the soil is warm. You wait. The shoots come in 2 weeks. You walk to the garden each morning, and you look for green. The first day, there is nothing. The second day, nothing. The second day, the third day, you see a small shoot, pale and thin. You kneel and look at it. It is a pea. You touch it, and it is soft. You call the children. They come running. Agnes says, "It is green." Tom says, "It is small." You say, "It will grow." The days are warmer. The shoots grow, and the garden turns green. The peas climb the sticks you set for them. The beans push through the soil. The rye is tall, and the wind moves through it. You stand at the edge of the field, and you watch. The cow grazes in the meadow. The grass is green now, and the cow is fat. The calf runs, and legs are like a flag. The goats climb the hill, and the chickens scratch in the dirt. You sit by the door. The sun is warm, and you close your eyes. The children play in the yard, and their voices are loud. Robert is in the field, and the plough is still. The planting is done. You think of the winter, the cold, the dark, the hunger. The woodpile low, the bread thin, the children sick. The nights when you sat by the fire and listened to the wind. The days when you walked to the stream with the yoke on your shoulders. The hours when you mended the same tear again and again. You remember the cough, the fever, the root that the healer gave. You remember the fear, the prayers, the waiting. You remember the forethought, the hope that was taken away. You remember the false thought, the hope that was taken away. You remember the calf, born in the cold, small and weak. She is strong now. She runs in the meadow. The winter is above thee. You go to the byre. The cow is lying down, and the calf is beside her. The goats are in the meadow, and the chickens are scratching. You stand in the byre, and the silence is deep. The straw is dry, and the walls are patched. The byre is warm. You go to the cottage. The fire is low, and the walls are patched. The byre is warm. You go to the cottage. The fire is low, and you add a log. The flames leap, and the room warms. The children are inside, and they are playing. Robert is at the table, carving a spoon. You sit by the hearth, and you watch the fire. You think of the spring. The garden will grow, and the food will come. The cow will give milk, and the cheese will be soft. The chickens will lay, and the eggs will be many. The bread will be made from new flour, warm and soft. You think of the summer. The hay will be cut, and the stack will be high. The wood will be gathered, and the stack will be high. The wood will be gathered, and the pile will be full. The children will run barefoot, and their feet will be brown. The sun will be warm, and you will rest. You think of the winter. It will come again. The cold will return, and the dark will return. The wood will burn, and the bread will be thin. The children will cough, and you will worry. But you will survive. You have done it before. You will do it again. You sit by the fire. The flames are low, and the room is dark. The children are sleeping, and Robert is dozing. You bank the fire, and the embers glow. You lie on the bed, and the children are warm against you. You close your eyes. You dream of the spring. The flowers are blooming, and the grass is green. You are walking through the field, and the sun is warm. Agnes is running ahead, and Tom is on your hip. Robert is behind you, carrying a scythe. The cow is grazing and the calf is running. The goats are on the hill and the chickens are scratching. You are not cold. You are not hungry. You are home. You wake. The fire is low. You add a log and the flames leap. The children are still asleep. Robert is in the field. The day is beginning. The spring is here. You go to the door. The sun is rising and the light is gold. The meadow is green and the stream is silver. The cow is running and the stream is silver. The cow is grazing. The goats are on the hill and the chickens are scratching. The garden is green and the seeds have grown. You stand in the doorway and you breathe. The air is warm and the smell is sweet. The winter is over. You have survived. You call the children. They wake and they come. Agnes stands beside you and Tom presses against your leg. You look at the meadow and you say, "The winter is over." Agnes says, "Will it come back?" You say, "Next year, but not now." She says, "I am glad." You say, "I am glad too." You go to the byre. The cow turns her head and her eyes are soft. You touch her flank and she shifts her weight. The calf nudges your hand and her fur is soft. You touch her flank and she shifts her weight. The calf nudges your hand. You stroke her head and her fur is soft. You milk the milk with a belt. You carry it to the cottage and pour it into a clay pot. The children will drink it for breakfast. You take the bread from the chest. The loaf is small, but it is bread. You cut slices, one for each of you. You eat, and the bread is dry. But it is bread. The winter is over, and the bread is enough. You sit by the door, the sun is warm, and you close your eyes. The children play in the yard, and their voices are loud. Robert is in the field, and the plough is still. The garden is green, and the seeds are growing. The winter is a memory, and the memory fades. You have survived. You are here. The spring is here. That is enough.